Well, here we are with naturalist Larry McDaniel, a familiar face to Steele Creek Park. How many years did you work, Larry, at Steele Creek Park?
10 years.
10 years, and now he has retired and still doing his naturalist activities. And we're also here with another familiar face, Cade Campbell, a naturalist, young naturalist. And we're here today to talk a little bit about the Tri-Cities Young Naturalist group that they are very involved with and would like to share some information with our viewing audience. Could you all give us an understanding of what the Tri-Cities Young Naturalist group is all about and how many members you have and what activities you all are doing?
Sure. Cade and I started this up a month or so ago, and what we're working with right now is we have a Facebook group and people are joining up. We've got a pretty good number. We have about 80 members right now, and people are contributing, and it's geared for young people. We're trying to get young people at ages 5 to 18. There's no age restrictions, but that's just a general idea. And we're trying to get them outdoors with their cameras. Cell phones are great, and to take pictures of nature and then submit them to Facebook. We also have a iNaturalist project, and they can join that as well and submit them there. Two different types of ways to do it.
So if someone who is a part of the group would post photographs to Facebook, are they automatically posting them to iNaturalist or vice versa? No, or do they have to do them separately?
They're actually not posting them at the both sites at the same time, posting on one, but rather both opportunities offer a different kind of community basis. If you post something on Facebook, the Facebook community will be able to look at it and talk about it and discuss it in a different way than they would in iNaturalist. iNaturalist is a citizen science project, so when you post it to iNaturalist, your data will go directly towards science. The Facebook side is more to keep in touch with events, activities, and the things you're finding, then also putting on iNaturalist that you can discuss with everybody else.
So what kind of subjects are the young naturalists taking photographs of?
Pretty much anything. Birds, salamanders, flowers, insects, lots of insect pictures. Just anything that's nature.
Anything that they find interesting. I love the idea of young people getting out and leaving a lot of technology behind, except you are using, of course, a cell phone to take photographs, but it's getting young people out in nature. How many members so far do you all have?
I looked this morning and we have 79.
Oh, that's terrific. 79, and they're all from the Tri-Cities area, correct?
Yes.
Oh, very good. Well, maybe today, here we are at Larry's farm, Larry and Janet's farm, and we may do some activities, so let's do some explorations, would you say?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. Hello, my name is Cade Campbell, and since this year we're not going to be able to do Wildlife Weekend like we typically do it, I want to encourage you to go out in your backyards and participate in our iNaturalist project, but also just find nature out in your own backyard. Just now we came across this little male Chinese mantis, which is a species of praying mantis that's found across the United States now. It was introduced as a method to control pests on plants. And you can see he's a male. The females are much larger, and they'll actually sometimes eat the males. So it's hard to believe that they get any bigger than this guy, but they do. And that kind of can be a problem. They like to eat hummingbirds and things like that. So taking a picture of these guys can actually be really important to document their populations, so people know how many are out there and if they're doing damage to the native habitats or not. So anytime you find something like this in your backyard, take a picture and document it. And you'll learn a lot about it if you pay a little bit of attention. All right, so let's take a closer look at this Chinese mantis. If you notice, he's got very complex compound green eyes, and he can see me very well. He uses sight to hunt, and he also uses stealth. So if you'll notice, he looks just like dead fall shrubs and leaves. These legs right here are called raptorial forelegs, and you can see that because they open up in all these little spiny parts, and he uses those to capture prey. Oh, and he just flew. But you can see him perched now. That's how he'll wait. He'll wait for a butterfly or a moth to get just a little bit too close, and then he'll snatch it and eat it. Also, if you really want to identify something, to document it, you always want to make sure that you get the correct identifying features. So first off, the large size is easy to tell, but if you grab a Chinese mantis, and you have to be careful because they pinch with their legs, because they don't know that you're just going to set them free. They think you're going to eat them. But if you notice, right between the two front legs, he's got a little yellow spot. And with that yellow spot, that's how you identify as a Chinese mantis, and he's really trying to fight. So after you identify him, maybe get some pictures, you can just let him go back to his business and go and hunt some more moths. Well, look what we found here. It looks like a nest of paper wasps. These are specifically guinea paper wasps, and you can tell because they're striped like a yellow jacket, but yet they make this little downturned nest with all kinds of little colonies. They almost look like honeycomb. How they build those, they'll actually fly up and they'll start chewing on bark and making it into a pulp. And much like people make paper, they'll take this bark slushy, I guess, and spread it around and build it into these little chambers where they'll raise their young. And wasps like this, especially paper wasps, are excellent pollinators and hunters. They eat a lot of things like caterpillars and other insects, even roaches sometimes. So they actually perform a nice job. You just want to be careful when you're outside to not accidentally get too close to their nest or bother one. All right, now here we have one of the last, what's called an instar of the monarch caterpillar. This little tiny insect turns into the beautiful monarch butterflies that migrate all the way down to Mexico that you might have heard about or seen, or maybe even raised in a classroom. They've got all these bright colors, but if you'll notice, it's very, very large at this time. So this is just toward the end of its season, and it's just about to build a chrysalis. It's going to climb off the milkweed. It's full enough, at least almost now. It's getting its last couple bites in this morning before it wraps itself up and waits a couple weeks to become a butterfly. And then it'll begin that journey south to Mexico as well. But you can see milkweed is toxic, so all these bright colors and these stripes are a warning sign to predators. But monarchs are particularly a type of insect that we want to pay attention to and track. So any observations you can make of this are very important to figure out how many there are left in the country and how they're doing as they try to grow up and make their way down to Mexico. Well, we just noticed that up here on the porch, one of those monarch's friends or siblings has already built its little chrysalis and is even closer to becoming a butterfly. And you can see it's a bright green chrysalis that would normally blend in with leaves. This one decided to make it in the shelter of a door frame, so it'll hang out there until it can become a butterfly. All right, so here we have a plant called late boneset or Eupatorium serotinum. And this is an excellent plant for all kinds of late season pollinators, all kinds of native bees, butterflies, day-flying moths, a whole host of awesome insects use this plant, and they in turn become food for all kinds of other things, reptiles, amphibians, birds, mammals. And so this plant's very important. And behind me you can see the goldenrod as well. These are all these late season wildflowers are very important, and as I'm right here on it, I can actually see some of the creatures that use it. All right, so one of our day-flying moths is the Ailanthus webworm moth, which is a big name for such a little moth, but you can see its beautiful colors. This moth is native to tropical regions down in Costa Rica and the highlands and rainforests of that region. When the ailanthus tree, which is a horrible invasive that comes into these regions and fills up roadsides and it smells really bad, comes into this region and starts displacing other plants, this little bug came to the rescue. It flew up from the Gulf of Mexico and was able to thrive up here eating this plant and helping us control this nasty invasive weed. So this beautiful little moth helps us out, and the late boneset gives it fuel so that it can fly on and lay its eggs on more ailanthus trees. So here we have an adult female black and yellow garden spider, or a griope, eating a red-legged grasshopper that looks like it jumped into her web from out of the grass, probably as we walked up. So these spiders are some of our largest native spiders and our prettiest, and they'll build a little white zigzag through the middle of their web, and they'll use that to capture prey. They'll try to jump through their web and not really see the web, be focused on that white zigzag and get captured into the sticky thread next to it. And you can see she's gradually wrapping up the prey, and she'll either eat it now or save it for later. At the end of the day, she'll actually bunch all of that web up after she's eaten her bug, throw all the trash out of it, and then eat her entire web. She'll actually eat the web itself, and that'll give her enough energy and protein to build the web the next day. Well, sometimes you don't actually see what you're looking for, or any living animal at all. But what you can find are the signs and tracks that they leave behind. If you look at this dead tree right here, we can kind of deduce that something's made all these holes right here that used to live here. And if you'll notice, each of these holes comes out of the tree, and some of them have little trails or grooves between them. These are what are called galleries, and usually they're made by some kind of wood-boring beetle, like a longhorn beetle. As they go and they burrow through the wood, they'll leave these little holes and trails behind. And often, they'll even kill the tree, especially for some of the more ferocious species. But these galleries provide an awesome habitat for things that come after the tree dies to help it break down. And a whole lot of animals need these dead trees to survive. They need what's inside of the tree, and they'll actually eat the wood themselves. And then other insects will come to eat the things that eat the wood, and then things will come to eat the things that eat the things that eat the wood, and then you have a whole food chain and a food web coming out of this tree. So these tracks and signs can tell you a whole lot more about what's going on than sometimes you would think. So not only do we have the wildlife to pay attention to, but we also can pay attention to what the wildlife eat, such as these hickory nuts. So we have a big hybrid hickory tree right up here beside me, and it drops late in the season, around this time of year, a ton of hickory nuts. These hickory nuts are valuable food for animals such as deer, squirrels, bear. All the wild animals need stuff like this. Squirrels a lot of times, and even blue jays, will actually spread the seeds of these hickory nuts by bringing them and storing them places, and then they'll be able to grow and flourish if the squirrel doesn't need to eat them, or other animal does not need to eat them during the course of the winter. So these last late into the winter and the season, and they're really helpful food. So anytime you see a hickory tree, it's a good indication that there's a lot of thriving wildlife in the area. Here we have another animal track. This is the house, you could say, of a jumping spider. They'll make a little silk sack that they can go into and hide, and during cold weather at night, or in the winter even. Sometimes they'll spend the entire winter in one of these little tiny houses. Well, as soon as they crawl in it, they'll use their feet and a little bit more silk, and they'll seal it shut. So then only they can open it at night from the inside. Oh, look what we found here. This is a Carolina locust. It's one of our grasshoppers. Locust is a type of grasshopper. So if you see, he looks just like dirt. His pattern camouflages him up against the ground, and he looks just like red clay dirt, or maybe just some mud, or a little exposed patch of soil. But he's got a secret. So when he takes off to escape from predators, he will open up his wings, and under these dirt-colored wings, he has these beautiful blue and yellow butterfly-like wings. So butterflies fly in a zigzag pattern. If you ever tried to catch one, you'll know that they're kind of difficult to track down and actually capture without something like a net. Now, these grasshoppers are a little bit easier to catch, but if they look like a butterfly to something like a bird who wants to eat them, they can trick them into thinking, oh, I probably won't catch this one, and leave them alone and chase a grasshopper that doesn't have these fancy wings. But once he's done flying, he can tuck his wings back together and look just like dirt again. So that makes them kind of hard to find when they land. But as soon as they fly up, they make a little crackling noise. If you're not scaring them and they make a really loud crackling noise just randomly jumping up out of the grass, that's their courtship display. And if you'll watch, he does a little dance to try to attract a lady. And he'll do that little dance above the grass, and you can watch it in local fields and know that they're out there to catch and see up close if you want to. So now that we've gotten a good look at our little friend, the Carolina locust, we'll set him free because that's where he belongs, in the wild. So I've got him in my hand right here. I'm holding him in the middle of his body. If you hold him by the legs, sometimes that's painful and it can really hurt him, or by the wings. So you want to hold them, support their body firmly. And when you're going to set him free, you just open up your hand and they should take off and fly away and go back to wherever they were hanging out, into their own habitat. I'm glad you could join us today for a little backyard adventure. And I want you to remember that you can find all this stuff and more in your own backyard. So I encourage you to go out and look and have fun going out and looking for stuff. Hopefully next year we can be back at Steele Creek Park. But in the meantime, get to know your local habitat right around you in your backyard, at local parks, and anywhere else you might find nature in your area.
If you're interested in joining the Tri-Cities Young Naturalist group, it's really easy. If you can get on Facebook, look for Tri-Cities Young Naturalist, you'll see where you can join as a member and request that, and we'll get you on. Or if you know somebody that is a member, they can invite you. Then way you don't need to get our acceptance, you just automatically become a member. And you can also go to iNaturalist. Again, look for Tri-Cities Young Naturalist under groups, and you can request to become a member on that as well.
Hopefully by 2021, we'll also be starting to do some events out in the community and field trips for the group, and nature programs that we'll be able to go and explore.
Well, that sounds wonderful, and I hope that our viewing audience can take advantage of the opportunity to learn so much from the both of you. Thank you, Larry McDaniel and Janet Brown, your wife, for letting us come out to your property, and thank you, naturalist Cade Campbell, for taking the time with us to teach us so much about the outdoors.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.